If your paycheck feels like it's holding you back from achieving financial freedom, you're not alone. For most people, the problem isn't how much money you earn, it's actually not knowing how to optimize your money to make it work for you. In today's video, I'm gonna show you the exact steps I took to completely change my finances in 6.5 months that's gonna take you from feeling financially stuck to getting on the path to financial freedom. And starting with the very first month, which is all about visibility. Because the truth is, if you don't know where you're starting, you're never gonna reach your destination. And the best way to get visibility is to know your money map score, which tells you how you're currently doing, financially speaking. And you only need to do 4 steps to find this. I call this the 4 C's, and I'm gonna walk you through each step. You can follow along with any spreadsheet you have. If you wanna use the money map that I created for free, I'll leave a link in the description down below. All right, so step 1 is to find your first C, which is your capital number. So this is like your take-home pay, basically the amount of money that you bring home every single month after taxes. Step 2 is to find your core number. So you can think of these as your core needs. These are things that you absolutely need to spend money on in order to survive. So this is like your house, your rent, your groceries, your transportation and utilities. Ask yourself, if you lost your job tomorrow, are you still obligated to make these payments to survive? And if that's a yes, then that's considered a core need. Then step 3 is to focus on your choice number, all right? So this is basically the opposite of core needs. It contains anything that you choose to spend money on. So these are non-essentials, right? These are the things that really make your life more comfortable and make it more enjoyable. So Netflix, going out, and partying. Then step 4, and this is your compound number, and that's automatically calculated with the money map tracker that I attached. This is essentially all the money that you have left over that you can dedicate it to build your future wealth. This includes your investments, your education fund, basically anything that's dedicated to the future growth of you. And after you have these 4 C's, you get your money map score, which indicates again how healthy your current finances are from 0 to 4. If you got 0, then you've got some work to do. If it's a 4, then great job. What I found is that most people tend to score lower than they think they will, and this really pushes them to change and feel motivated, which is fantastic because the whole point of the first month is all about visibility and knowing where you're starting, so we can finally set that GPS up to reach your final destination over the next 5.5 months. All right, so the next month is all about reserving a pile of money that's dedicated to your peace of mind. This pile of money is gonna be your safety net and your fallback plan for when anything wild or unexpected happens, like if you lose your job or if your car breaks down. The danger of not having this peace of mind fund is if something does end up happening, knock on wood, and you don't have the money, then you're gonna rely on credit cards or taking out personal loans, which may come with really high interest rates. It's pretty simple to figure out how much you need to save here. Just go back to your money map and look at your total core number and multiply that amount by 4.5. Now this might seem like a lot of money because, well, it is, but here are 3 things I did to help me reach this amount a lot quicker and easier. Step 1 is to go back to your money map and go to the part where you have your core and your choice expenses. The strategy here is to apply the 80-20 rule, which states that it's more effective and there's a greater return on your time if you focus on cutting back your biggest expenses rather than focusing on cutting the smallest expenses, like buying iced coffee. So step 2 is to sort from the largest to smallest number and then filter for choice category. Then you want to go down the list and start asking yourself if you can cut the expense out or if you can find some creative replacement, right? For example, I live in New York City and it's ungodly expensive to hang out with friends. Like going out to eat dinner and get drinks can easily cost over $100. So instead of being a hermit and never going outside again, I just host potluck style game nights, like board game nights in my apartment, and I invite my friends over and then we can all hang out and not have to spend an arm and a leg. So as you go through the list, just update the numbers line by line. Next is step 3, and this is where you want to filter for core needs. Now, core needs are a bit more essential, so it is harder to say, I'm gonna be cutting out all these expenses. So now you want to reframe the question on, can you find cheaper alternatives for each thing? So for example, can you refinance your mortgage or negotiate your rent? Can you shop at Trader Joe's instead of shopping at Whole Foods? But without a doubt, the most helpful thing I found is once you start playing around with these numbers in your money map, you're gonna start noticing 2 very powerful things. Number 1 is the amount of money that you need for your peace of mind fund is naturally gonna get smaller. And number 2, the amount of money you can dedicate to your compound bucket gets larger. The point is, having a peace of mind fund is priceless, which is why I always tell people to make this their highest priority before they do anything else. Just remember to keep all this money in a high yield savings account where it can actually earn money and not lose money thanks to inflation. If you want to see the best high yield saving account in 2025, I'll leave a link in the video description and here. Which brings me to the next month, which I call Stop the Cap. You see, most people only focus on saving more of their existing income, but the truth is you can't really build wealth this way because there is a definite cap to how much money you can save. For example, if your take-home pay is $5K a month, which is pretty solid, but you don't spend any money and you live off of nothing, the most you can save is $5K. The trick to changing your finances and building real wealth is to think about both sides of the wealth equation. One is how can you save a larger percentage of your existing income, but also how can you make more money? So I wanted to share 3 things I did when I worked in corporate America a couple years back on how I increased my income going from the smallest increase to the largest increase. And again, if you are serious about changing your finances, you can grab my money map for free in the link down below. The first thing I did is to see how much other people were being paid on average for a role similar to mine. I used sites like Glassdoor and Levels to find this number. If I realized it was average or below average, I'd go to my boss and present a case on why I deserved the raise. The second thing I did was just go back out there and start dating the job market. Time and time again, studies show that switching jobs leads to the biggest pay jumps. And pro tip, if you really love your current job and you want to stay, you can always just use this other offer, salary offer as leverage and ask your boss to match the increase so that you are incentivized to stay. Which brings me to the third thing, and this was the largest income increase I've ever experienced. And this is a side hustle. I've been doing YouTube as a hobby since I was 13 years old, and I never made any money on it until 2020, so 5 years ago. And that's when I really took it seriously. And the cool thing is 6 months into it, right, I was able to generate about half of my full-time salary working my full-time job. And at that point, it's when I decided to just go full-time and go all in on my side hustle. The great thing is side hustles are flexible. You don't have to do YouTube if you don't want to. There's Uber drivers, you can be a pet sitter, or you can be a consultant, right? Even working an extra 5 hours a week at $25 an hour is $500 extra every single month. The point is there is always going to be a cap, a limit to how much money you can save, but there is no limit on how much money you can earn. And the best combination to change your finances is a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Which brings us to month 4, which I call Wealth Killer. And the whole goal here is to tackle the biggest wealth killer you have, which is any debt whose interest rate is greater than 10%. Oftentimes, this is debt that includes your car loans or your credit cards or any personal loans that you may have. And the reason this is the main focus is because if you think about it, if you have debt with a 10% or greater and you eliminate it, it's basically like getting a guaranteed 10% return on your money. So here are 2 of my favorite ways to eliminate this wealth killer. The first way is if you know that you can pay off your debt, then I suggest doing a 0% balance transfer strategy. So basically this is when you move your debt from one credit card to a balance transfer card that offers a 0% interest rate for 12 to 18 months. And during that time frame, any amount of money that you use to pay off your debt goes entirely to knocking down the debt directly without any interest building up. About 2/3 of people who do this balance transfer strategy end up paying off their balance before the 12 to 18 months is over. But you do want to be careful. You should only do this if you are confident that you can pay off your debt early, because once the 0% period ends, then the interest rates shoot up. The second way, and this is for people who aren't super confident that they can pay off all their debt within the 12 to 18 months, and this is to use the debt snowball method. This is basically when you prioritize paying off the smallest debt balance first while still making minimum balance payments towards the other ones. Once you eliminate the smallest debt, you're going to take up all the freed up money that you had and then just apply it to the next smallest debt and so on and so forth. Eventually, the payments you make is like a snowball when you roll it down a hill. As time progresses, the snowball gets bigger and bigger, and the faster you can pay off your debt. The point is, the problem with super high interest debt is that it prevents you from building wealth because the amount of money that you owe is just going to continue to increase thanks to high interest rates. For debts with an interest rates of less than like 5%, I wouldn't stress too much about it right now, and rather I would focus on what you want to do for the next month. All right, so moving on to month 5, and this is when it gets really fun. So right now we are assuming that you are tackling or you have tackled your high interest rate debt, right? You have settled on a pretty good money map score and your peace of mind fund is being built. This month is dedicated to investing and building wealth for your future. So in the US, there are a bunch of different investment accounts you can do, but here are 3 that I recommend that people open up in this specific order. Number 1 is the Roth IRA, which is a tax advantage retirement account. Your contributions to this account has to be made with after-tax dollars, so this is basically your take-home pay. The best feature about a Roth IRA is that all of the earnings and the profits that you have in this account, they pretty much grow tax-free, meaning when you withdraw everything when you retire, you don't have to pay taxes on anything. In fact, the Roth IRA is so OP that the government basically limits how much you can actually contribute to your Roth IRA account. In 2025, if you are under 50, you can contribute max $7,000. If you're over 50, max is $8,000. The next account is the 401k, which is an employer-sponsored retirement account. Now, most employers do offer this. This is pretty common, so just double check with your employer if they have anything like this. The reason is there are 2 things that make this account really stand out. Number 1 is all your contributions to this account is made with pre-tax dollars, meaning the money is coming from your paycheck before it gets taxed, so it lowers your overall taxable income. Number 2, a lot of employers offer this thing called a 401k match, where they basically match your contributions to your 401k, and that's basically free money. And again, since the 401k account is so OP'd, the government does limit how much you can contribute to it. In 2025, if you are under 50, you can contribute $23,500. If you're over 50, you can contribute $31,000. Now, the third account is just a regular brokerage account, okay? So this is separate from the retirement accounts that we just talked about. So just think of it as a super flexible general investing account. There's no special tax benefits, but there's also no restrictions to how much you can contribute or when you get to take this money out. Now, the most common mistake I see people make with these accounts is they'll contribute a bunch of money to it and then they don't actually do anything with the money. In that case, it's acting just like a savings account. The trick is you actually have to use that money that you put into account and actively invest in something. So what should you invest in, right? So for most people, I just suggest looking at low-cost index funds. It is the lowest effort and easiest way to start investing your money and still get pretty solid returns. If you want to learn how to start investing and what exactly to invest in, check out this video where I break everything down step by step. I'll also leave a link down below. And that brings me to month 6, and this is when everything gets super easy. You see, most people have trouble managing their finances because there's just too much going on. You got work, you got relationships to worry about, you got your career, and just overall life. Right? And the very last thing you want to do is also think about your money, which is why I'm a very strong believer in financial automations. Because once you set up your automations, your entire financial picture basically runs on autopilot without you having to lift a finger, which reduces your chances of making excuses or procrastinating or overspending. I remember when I first implemented my financial automations, I surprisingly, without any effort at all, spent less and saved more money than ever before, which my money map score was very happy about. So here's a very small glimpse into my financial automations, which you can feel free to take inspiration from. It basically all starts with a paycheck, and a portion of my paycheck automatically flows into my pre-tax retirement accounts like the 401k I just talked about, and the rest flows into my command center account, which further splits into sub-accounts based on my goals. My post-tax retirement and saving accounts, they automatically pull fixed percentages from this command center account. My subscription and bills are automatically paid for with my credit cards, which my command center accounts then takes care of on autopilot. In short, I spend less than a couple minutes a month managing my money. And the best thing is any money that's left over in my command center account is what I call flexible spending. This is basically money you can spend on whatever you want without feeling any guilt, because you know your finances, like your savings, your investing, and your debt payments is basically all taken care of because of the financial automations. All right, so moving on to month 6.5, so half a month in, this is something that people forget about all the time. Yes, it's great to know all the technical details from month 1 to month 6 of how you can change your finances, but what is 10 times more impactful and important is this. And if you don't get this part right, your entire 6-month plan is basically gonna fall apart. The number one thing that is going to help you achieve financial freedom is making the decision that you can do this and to stop thinking that you can't. I know this sounds super woo-woo and made up, but the truth is, achieving financial freedom doesn't require you to be the smartest person in the room or the most intelligent or whatever, right? It's about whether you believe you can do it or not. But at the same time, there is something else that I do that's had an even bigger impact on my finances. So I want you to check out this deep dive where I'm going to show you what it is and how you can use it to get on the path to financial freedom.